the Rainbow Man. At 13 years of age, Tommy didn't have a lot of experience in life, but he knew enough to be resentful that his mother was sending him away to his dad in California. It was all because of her new boyfriend, Jack. He was sure of it. Jack didn't want any children, and he felt that Tommy was nothing but a thorn on his side for the past year. Tommy always hated watching his mother defend herself from Jack's verbal attacks. Thankfully, Jack was never physically abusive, but his choice of words could have punched holes through the walls, and it hurt the same as if he used his fists. As he watched the mountains and trees go passing by from inside the bus, Tommy thought about the last words his mother had said to him before he boarded. She remained seated on the bench, tears streaming down her face, while she held Tommy's head with both her hands. "It's better this way, Tommy. You know?" She choked a little on her words as if she didn't want to say them and knew herself that they were not true. "Your father has been asking about you for years. You know how he always writes to you and stays in touch with you. If he weren't so far away, he would have been visiting you all this time. You know how much I love you, Tommy. You are my boy. You will always be my boy. If you ever need me, you just come right back to me, you hear? We'll work things out. Why can't we work things out now?" The tears fell in full force, and his mother pulled him into a hug. "It's time for you to spend time with your dad, honey. I'm sorry. I don't want you to go, but I think it would be best. Please don't forget how much I still love you. If you need me, you come right back. You call me, I'll send for you. But it's time for you to know your father, and right now, you need to have a good role model. Jack isn't going to be." Tommy watched as the bus pulled into the station in Huntington Beach, California. He scanned the crowd of people gathered all around, wondering which one was his father. He'd seen pictures, but none of them recent. His father had left them when Tommy was only a year old. Tommy didn't know what to expect, for it has been nearly 12 years now. Like Jack, maybe his father wouldn't like him either. But then what did he know? He was only 13 years old. He shook his head, trying to get the fear out of his mind. Despite that, he was more aware of things than what adults often knew. But he was still afraid of what adults could do to him. After all, they were still bigger than him. He stepped down from the bus, looking around, hoping that his father would find him. There were lots of people all around him. He slung his backpack over his shoulder and followed the crowd of adults out towards the back of the bus, where the driver had opened the luggage compartment. He had only one large rolling piece of luggage that his father had left behind. He'd managed to stuff all his clothes and comics into the luggage while he carried his other essentials in his backpack. He had a favorite University of Alabama red sports cap that he'd kept with him wherever he went, even to school. His toothbrush, along with a deck of playing cards and a few other things, were in his backpack. His mom had packed several ham sandwiches and 3 apples in there in case he got hungry. Thinking about it made him hungry, so he set his bag down and unzipped it, not minding the adults that were passing him by, looking down at him strangely, as though he didn't belong there. A few of the women looked at him with concern. He waited for one of them to come over and ask him if he was lost or if he needed some help, but none of them did. "Tommy?" He heard his name and looked up into the face he recognized from the pictures, but older. His dad had wrinkles around his eyes now, and he was skinnier than he looked in the pictures back at his mother's house. He wore a friendly smile on his face that was as bright and colorful as the tie-dyed shirt he was wearing. Tommy felt a bit more relaxed as his father walked closer to him. He wanted to greet the man, but didn't know what to call him. They had rarely spoken over the phone, and he didn't feel like calling him Dad. He wasn't sure how the man would respond to being called by his first name, which was Charlie. So instead, he put on his best smile, hoping that his dad won't get angry with him. "Hi," he said quietly. "Tommy, it's nice to see you. You've grown into quite a young man since I last saw you." "You saw me last when I was a baby," Tommy thought. "Of course I've grown." But he said nothing. "Come on with me," Charlie said, gesturing at him. "Let's stop over at McDonald's for a hamburger. Or would you like Burger King instead? Where would you want to go, buddy?" Tommy detested being called Buddy. It did not help him feel better about the situation he was in. He forced a smile to stay on his face. I'll take a burger from McDonald's, Dad. Thanks. As he followed his father from the bus terminal, Tommy looked around, observing his new surroundings as they stepped out into the bright sunshine. And he looked up. He could smell the ocean. This time, it put a real smile on his face. I can't wait to see the beach. The truck is over here, son, Charlie said, taking the keys off from around the belt loop of his pants. Tommy looked up at him to see where his father's eyes were directed at, and he turned to see a huge dark green truck. Tommy had to stretch all the way up to reach the handle and pulled himself into the passenger seat. His father got on the driver's side and slammed the door, looking proudly at Tommy. This is a Nissan Frontier S King Cab, son. Doesn't get any better than this truck right here. It's nice, Dad, Tommy said as he just realized that he said Dad again while scanning the interior. Tommy was beginning to feel a bit more comfortable. Perhaps it was because of his love for trucks ever since he could remember. His father snorted. Nice doesn't speak the half of it, son. Tommy smiled in response. It only took a few days for Tommy to get used to his new neighborhood in Driftwood Shores, where his father lived. It was strangely homey, had a comfortable feel to it, and Tommy liked it right away. The first thing his father did that morning was to take Tommy to register at the new school, which was smaller than what Tommy had expected. His first few days of being a transfer student went well. Luckily, Tommy was naturally a friendly kid, and making new friends for him was never a problem. He could easily analyze the other kids around him and decide which ones looked like they'd be more fun to hang out with. His idea of fun rarely meant getting into trouble or danger, but he was always up for a little adventure. Wow, I really like this school now, he thought to himself. A week after his arrival, he was met outside the school on his way home by his new friends, Gary, Josh, and Turk. His name wasn't Turk, but that's what he insisted everyone call him. Tommy thought it was because of his weight being fat and heavy, like a turkey, but Turk would never tell or say why. They all went along with it in a spirit of friendship. How's it going, Tommy? Josh asked, holding out his fist for a bump. Tommy bumped his fist and shook his hand. Same as always, Josh. You? Got in trouble with my mom last night, so I'm grounded. Not going anywhere with us tonight, then? Gary, the tallest of the boys, asked. Didn't know there were plans, Josh said. But if you got plans, I'm going to be there for real. What were you guys thinking? Let's all go to my house first. I really need to go home before my dad gets mad, Tommy said. The three boys agreed, and they all walked together with Tommy to his house. When Tommy got home, his dad was about to leave. Hi, Dad. Oh, hi, Tommy, his dad replied as he stopped his truck and got out to help carry Tommy's heavy school bag into the house. These are my friends from school. This is Gary, that's Josh, and that's Turk. Tommy's dad replied with his bright smile and shook each boy's hand. Anyways, Tommy, I've got to go to work a bit earlier tonight, so dinner's in the fridge. And thank you, boys, for walking Tommy home, and please help yourselves to some soda and Powerade in the fridge. I'll be back around 8 or 9 tonight, so please stay home until I get back, okay? Okay, Dad, Tommy replied. His dad then rushed back to his truck and sped away. Wow, your dad is cool, Gary said as he grabbed himself a bottle of Powerade. I wish I had a dad like you too, Turk added. Tommy started to blush as he heard the compliments from his new friends about his dad. Wow, my dad is so cool, Tommy smiled to himself. The four boys spent the afternoon drinking sodas and playing video games and texting other friends on their iPhones. When suddenly Gary said, Have you heard about those killings? Josh and Turk snorted at the same time, and then smiled at each other. Killings? Turk asked, looking at Gary. Like murder? Which killings are you talking about? Gary shook his head. No, it's all over the internet. Even on Facebook. You guys don't know? There's been a bunch of killings down by Windy Gate Tunnel. You mean that old train tunnel? Josh asked. Yeah. I thought they boarded up that place a long time ago. They did, but that storm that came through last winter tore a bunch of it up. Now people are exploring it. Gary's eyes sparkled with excitement. I want to go explore it too. Tonight. Bring a flashlight so you can take some pictures with your phone. But you said killings, Turk said. What does that have to do with the tunnel? Gary then looked up the article on his iPhone and then showed it to the rest of the boys. Apparently some people have come up missing after going down in there. But I want to see where they are. What happened to them? Tommy felt an immediate surge in his stomach. It was the feeling you'd get after you ate something your stomach didn't agree with, and you badly wanted to vomit it out. The pain from it made him grimace. What's wrong, Tommy? Gary smiled. You gonna chicken out? It ain't like that. Tommy shook his head. I just, try to stay alive whenever I can. If I think I might die, I try not to do whatever that is. That might kill me. Josh lifted his hands in the air. Hey, there's no saying those people are dead. The news got them listed as missing, he read from his own iPhone. How many so far? Tommy asked. 5. Tommy shook his head. That's 5 too many for me, Gary. I don't want to die. Gary scoffed. You ain't gonna die. You're just a scaredy cat. Tommy frowned as he felt insulted after being called a scaredy cat. Gary blanched and took a step back, like Tommy had slapped him in the face. No, I just want to have a little fun and maybe have something happen for once in this old town. Whoever said California is not a happening place has never lived in Driftwood Shores. It's a beach town, Gary, Turk said knowingly. That's why there aren't a lot of people around here. Only the wealthy can afford it. That's what my mom says anyway. So nobody who's gone in the tunnel has survived? Tommy asked. Gary nodded. Oh yeah, plenty of people have. They haven't figured out a pattern to when the people go missing, because they haven't found any bodies or anything. But I did hear my dad telling my uncle that there's a bunch of different colors spray painted on the inside of the wall of the tunnel about midway through, and it looks like a rainbow. So they call this guy the Rainbow Man. Sounds stupid, Josh said, leaning back on the sofa while trying to open a bag of potato chips. I didn't make up the name. I just know that that's what they call him. He turned to face Tommy. You in or out? Don't be chicken. Come on, we'll just go in to see the rainbow. Maybe look for a few bodies where people killed themselves or died because they couldn't find their way out. What? Tommy interjected. I'm not going to some place where I might get lost and killed. I want to get home early so my dad doesn't get mad. Gary shook his head. We'll go in early, like 6 tonight. Then you'll be back by 8. Come on, Tommy, do this with us. He turned to Josh. And you too. You both gotta be there. It's gonna be the greatest. Josh, Turk, and Tommy looked at each other. It does sound like fun, Turk said. You think you can get out? He directed the question toward Josh. Josh flipped one hand through his bright blonde hair under his Angels baseball cap and nodded. His grin was that of a sly fox. Oh, I'm gonna get out all right. Come on, Tommy. Come with us. Let us show you something cool. You've only been here a few weeks, so you haven't seen much of anything. We'll show you what makes this a better place to live in than, say, your old town in Alabama. Tommy raised his eyebrows. Alabama? What's wrong with Alabama? Nothing but cotton balls and farm animals. My mom says it's one of the worst places in America to live. And she should know. She was born and raised there too. But now she lives here, Josh said. So it's settled then. Turk, you in? The boy nodded his head. Tommy? Tommy hesitated. He was scared of the tunnel, but not scared enough to lose his new friends, so he nodded to go. All right, Josh and I will meet you and Turk at the lamppost on 21st and Alvernon. That good for you guys? Again, Tommy and Turk nodded their heads. Josh and Gary left Tommy's house, whereas Turk decided to hang out with Tommy until their meeting time at 6. Turk needed to show Tommy where the lamppost was. Tommy couldn't help but feel his heart sinking along with the sick stomach. The moon shone brightly as Tommy and Turk arrived at the bridge. Why are you guys so late? Why didn't you answer your phones? Gary asked. Sorry, we turned them off so we can fully charge it. And we went to the store to buy new batteries for my dad's flashlight, Turk added. The tunnel, according to Gary, was below the bridge. There was a corner to one side, where the bridge ended, that was perfect for sliding down. The path used to be a well-worn slope until someone had the courtesy to place some large rocks in various locations to create a stepping stone pathway. The boys hopped down one by one until they were all standing in front of the tunnel's dark entrance. It was blocked by some broken 2x4s. It looks like we're going into someone's garage, Tommy whispered. Josh elbowed him, nodding. Yeah, we think they used a garage door to board it up to begin with. Let's go, I ain't got all night, Turk prompted. The corner of the garage door had been pulled up by winds that had passed through the tunnel area the year before. The boys slipped easily through the opening, while each one turned on his flashlight app. Only Turk had brought an actual flashlight and was ready to take any pictures if anything interesting happened. The walk was boring for the first 5 minutes. The boys saw nothing but rats, which only scared Tommy, especially whenever one of them walked over his shoe, and lots of empty cans and beer bottles left behind by other people who had traveled through the tunnel. Look, look! Josh finally said, grabbing Tommy's arm and jostling it roughly. Tommy gave him a hard look before following the boys' eyes. They saw a bright rainbow painted on the wall of the tunnel. The boys stopped and stared at it. It says something below it, Gary said, stepping forward. He followed the words with the light from his phone. Don't say my name. He turned to look over his shoulder at his friends. What's that mean? Does it mean not to say Rainbow Man? Turk asked. A rolling sound came out of the darkness, and Turk screamed. The other boys turned their phones to see what had happened. Turk's flashlight seemed to be rolling on the ground, the light flipping over and over with the boy's hand still holding onto the flashlight. But the hand was no longer attached to Turk's wrist. Look out! Tommy yelled, backing away from the rainbow-colored wall, and the other two boys screamed, Let's get out of here! Turk! Josh ran toward his friend, who was holding his mutilated arm with his other hand while loudly crying, Turk, come on before... Josh's words cut off when he suddenly jerked to the side. He looked down and saw a blade had embedded into his ribs. There was a rope tied to the end of the blade. Josh looked up at Turk with wide eyes, just as the rope blade violently pulled him into the darkness. The other three could hear him screaming somewhere in the blackness of the tunnel. Oh my god, we gotta get out of here! Tommy shrieked. He turned and ran just after watching Gary grab Turk by his good arm, trying to drag him back towards the tunnel's entrance, but to no avail. They both fell as the knife pierced Gary from behind. All Tommy could do was run for his life. He couldn't help Gary or Turk. The only thing Tommy could hear was the sound of blood rushing through his ears as his legs pumped up and down. Tommy cried in terror as he ran as fast as he could, knowing that he could die right now. He saw the tunnel's entrance and felt a surge of relief as he exited the tunnel. However, he didn't stop running until he got to his backyard. He grabbed onto a tree and hugged it, trying to catch his breath while trying not to cry out loud. He leaned over, coughing and spitting, tears rolling down his cheeks. He could still see and hear Josh's body being jerked down the dark tunnel, screaming for help. He turned and slid down the side of the tree to sit, trying to breathe. Thoughts raced through his mind. He had to call the police. He pulled his phone from his back pocket and held it, so the screen lit up his face. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw headlights. He turned to look and immediately jumped behind the tree to hide. It was his father returning home from work. Charlie backed into the driveway so that the truck was facing toward the street. The garage door was rolling up, making a whirring sound. It clicked into place almost silently. Tommy watched as his father got out of the truck. Whistling through his teeth, still hidden behind the tree, he turned his phone off so that the screen would show no light. He didn't want to be seen by his father yet, because he would have had a fit if he knew that Tommy had left after dark without permission. Charlie walked around to the back of the truck and lowered the tailgate. Tommy narrowed his eyes. His father was lit up by the garage light that cast strange shadows all around him. Tommy had never been in the garage before, but his father always kept the truck outside, saying there was a lot of junk in the garage. Chills covered him from head to toe when he saw his father pulling a black plastic trash bag from the back of the truck. He was singing a song, and Tommy struggled to make out the words. Part of the trash bag came open, and Tommy watched as the head of his new friend, Gary, rolled out and hit the driveway pavement. Charlie snatched up the head and tossed it back in the bag and re-tied it up. He turned around and slicked the bag over his shoulder. As he turned, Tommy could hear the words his dad was singing. Nobody messes with the Rainbow Man. Nobody messes with me. Charlie then disappeared into the garage. Tommy turned away and pulled his phone back out. With the shaking fingers, he dialed 911.